Very good.
This is a truly pathetic show, Daemon.
Is anyone else getting really tired of generic, uninspired villains? House of the Dragon has so much potential as a show, and it's a shame that the creative value plummets from the lack of characterization, specifically for its villain, Daemon Targaryen. We're first introduced to Daemon as he sits on the Iron Throne. This immediately communicates to us in the absolute quickest way possible that he's not afraid of breaking the rules, and that he's driven by the desire for power. The tone is ominous and the lighting grim, visually telling us he's bad news. Gee, I wonder if this guy's gonna cause trouble later on. Yep. He speaks High Valyrian to Princess Rhaenyra, also denoting secrecy. Both Daemon and the princess seem to treasure their ancestry dearly, which when we think about their history is a bit unsettling.
Kivy.
He confirms all of this when he says that until a new son is born to the king, we are all cursed with him. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Our next scene with Daemon is by all means even more on the nose. A loud thumping chant introduces Daemon once more, who demeans his troops and then hypes them up as hounds on the hunt. Notice the lighting and how he's often portrayed with fire. Blatantly eerie music plays, and just hearing him speak, he sounds cunning and deceptive. HBO pulled out every half-baked trick in the book to spoon-feed us rather than let us figure him out on our own. By Daemon's orders, the city is ravaged, as criminals are beaten, dismembered, and executed. It's clear that Daemon finds pleasure in this violence and spreading fear, making him such a one-dimensional character. Both visually and through writing, this scene is so underwhelming from how cliché it is. It becomes clear at this point that this one character is going to carry the entire story on his back, which doesn't speak very highly of the intellectual and creative value of the series. In the next scene, we have King Viserys' council reproach Daemon's actions, calling him unstable and reckless, reinforcing what we've seen. Daemon's response is that he was simply upholding the laws in preparation for the upcoming games and celebration, essentially saying it was for the safety of travelers. This makes him come across as cheeky and arrogant, two common tropes of underwhelming villains. In case that wasn't clear enough, he speaks poorly of his wife and uses much more vulgar language than the other characters. He provokes Otto Hightower by bringing up his recently deceased wife. As if it wasn't drilled into our heads enough, this cements Daemon as the distasteful villain archetype, stereotypically selfish, arrogant, and one-dimensional. King Viserys warns that if Daemon pulls a spectacle like that again, there will be consequences. After hearing this, Daemon, of course, leaves. We're taken to the jousting tournament, where Daemon wears a coy smile and his gloomy, intimidating dragon armor. We're introduced to Criston Cole, a valiant warrior who will face Daemon in the jousting tournament later on. We really get insight into Daemon's childlike tendency to find joy in messing with others when he chooses Otto Hightower's oldest son to face him. Daemon is initially knocked on his back in the first encounter, and in the next he uses his lance to trip the opponent's horse. Daemon is a villain that's not afraid to play dirty. Very original. Playing dirty is another surefire way to hammer in our heads that this guy is no good. Right after the match, he asks Lady Alicent, Otto's daughter, for her favor in the games. Man, this guy's really got it out for Otto. Criston knocks Daemon back, making him slide along the rail. The fight turns into a contest of arms. Daemon topples Criston but then proceeds to celebrate preemptively. Criston takes this opportunity and strikes him from behind. Criston defeats Daemon and throws down his weapon as he offers his hand to Daemon. Of course, Daemon slaps his hand away. We then learn that both the queen and the newborn baby were lost in delivery. We're taken to another council meeting over the next successor to the king. It's brought up that Daemon is the clear successor, but everyone worries that Daemon would mess things up if he were to become king. No kidding. It's suggested that Daemon may even murder the king. This is all said while Daemon is listening in. The king is in denial that Daemon even wants the throne, which is incredibly naive.
He lacks the patience for it.
The gods have yet to make a man who lacks the patience for absolute power, Your Grace.
Later in the episode, we have a scene where Daemon brings women for his men to rally support, making him look one-sided for viewing people as tools. Daemon calls the recently deceased baby the heir for a day in a speech, which greatly angers Viserys.
Styling him the heir for a day.
Infuriated that Daemon celebrated a victory for himself instead of mourning his brother's loss, the king has Daemon brought to him, where he sits on the Iron Throne. Viserys gets a confession out of Daemon, but Daemon reproaches that in all this time the king has never asked him to be his hand. Daemon tells the king that he's weak. Furious, the king tells him that he has chosen a new heir. He tells Daemon to leave immediately with his wife. It's here we again get tense music and a cynical look on Daemon's face. The most disappointing aspect of House of the Dragon is that Daemon's character leaves nothing to the imagination in terms of motivation and depth. He steals a dragon egg, acts distasteful again, and oh, we get that eerie cliche scene by a fire where Corlys says, "We're made from the same cloth." Cheesy. It's like the writers and directors are purposefully dumbing this down for us. The scene is dimly lit, and we see Daemon from a low angle. Very on the nose both in writing and directing. The scene that really sums up Daemon's character is the first scene in episode 3. Prince Drahar nails a man's hands to a post as he agonizes in pain. Just before he gets crabbed, our favorite villain swoops in, seemingly to save the man, but actually lands his dragon on him, crushing him. I laughed pretty hard at this, since it made for a great analogy of my expectations for Daemon. House of the Dragon's heavy emphasis on dialogue and effects left me wanting more, story and development wise. I wanted a reason to become invested in the story. I thought that Daemon could be that reason, since he plays such a significant role in the story. But after an unforgivable barrage of cliche after cliche, I am left like my friend here, crushed by Daemon.
Dear my prince, save me!
Without a doubt, the scene that suffered the most from the lack of characterization is the fight against the crab feeder and the pirates in episode 3. Daemon and Corlys are losing the war. A messenger is sent from King Viserys offering help, and after reading the note, Daemon beats the messenger. Next, we see Daemon raise a white flag to the pirates, conceding victory. He feigns defeat and draws out the enemy to launch a preemptive attack. This is a really cool potential moment for character development and suspense. Unfortunately, it's hard to maintain any level of tension since we know Daemon is too egotistical to concede. We also know he's well equipped in plot armor since he's the primary antagonistic force in House of the Dragon. He's carrying the show on his back after all. This, along with the anticlimactic end to the crab feeder, takes away from a moment that had so much potential. House of the Dragon suffers dearly from one-dimensional characters. Since the main villain is so one-sided, we have no sense of wonder or mystery. Most of the fun of a villain lies in understanding their motives, their depth as a character, and how far they're willing to go to achieve their desires. Hot D strips us of all of that in exchange for uninspired hand-holding. If even a fraction of the money put into visual effects had been put into better writing early on, we would have a much more compelling experience here. Daemon Targaryen's characterization feels watered down and lazily written, which pains me to say since House of the Dragon has a lot going for it. He gives me Negan vibes from The Walking Dead, a blatant antagonist told in the most primitive way to get us to dislike him, telling us how to feel. Let me know if you'd like me to make an analysis on Negan as well. Did Daemon's characterization turn you off at all? I'm Bumper Jumper, dedicated to exploring the most impactful and profound stories in TV shows, movies, video games, and anime. In the next video, I'll be disproving evolution using only critical race theory, so stay tuned for that.